Get ready with me. Time for another shave. And I'm about to vent about work, so you got ample opportunity to swipe up or move away or not watch the rest of this. So, fair warning. You have been warned. Well, alright, let's get the first thing out of the way. I don't know if this is an example of the trolley problem or not. I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comments section. Please do, because that does help the algorithm. But, so, I was having a bit of a meltdown today. There was a lot of things going on that was contributing to the potential meltdown, making it very hard to function. And I finally reached the point where I had to go home early. Now, I only have 1.5 hours left of protected paid time off. But I wanted to go home 2.5 hours before the end of my shift. Now, I would have lost the pay because I don't have enough protected paid time off to cover the full time. I didn't have enough protected paid time off to cover 2.5 hours. Now, at one of my, either my direct supervisor or my assistant manager's discretion, they can let me go and not give me a point. They could decide to make that point go away. I only would have gotten half a point, but I would rather not have that point at all. And so I told my assistant manager I need to go home early, but I don't have the time to cover it. And he said, well, if you go home early, you're going to get that point, and it's on you. Now, if he had let me go and then just taken that half point off, I would have lost 2.5 hours worth of wages. That would have been my loss. So finally, I decided to tough it out. I found some stuff to do. Some of the distracting influences went away or stopped being so distracting, and I was able to get a little of myself under control. But I toughed it out until 1.5 hours before I had to clock out. And since I had 1.5 hours of protected paid time off, that's sick time for those of you who aren't in the same company, I punched out. I used that time, got approved for it automatically because you can say sick for sick purposes. And I went home. And I'm going to get paid for that, and I won't get a point. So I feel like this is a good example of the trolley problem, where the boss man my supervisor or my manager could have let me go, and the company would not have had to pay me for 2.5 hours. But instead, he chose to make me tough it out, and I got paid for 1.5 hours to do nothing, essentially. So I don't know. Who do you think won in that scenario? By all means, please tell me what a terrible employee I am. But at least I earned that time. At least I have that time accumulated. And I still have a job at the end of the day, so I didn't have a big explosive meltdown. I was able to get that under control. It's not always the case, though. Sometimes all that stimulation hits me at once, and I have to live in fear every day of that happening, because at the end of the day, nobody at work cares one way or the other. And I still need a job. So that brings me to another frustrating aspect of the workplace. I've said this before, how we have plenty of employees, but the problem is the majority of our employees don't care. They're so focused on what they're doing. They're too busy. You'll see 4 or 5 employees, which includes a member of management or more, 1 or 2, standing around a display watching something on YouTube or something on their personal phones, not the work phones, but they'll be talking about something related to sports or whatever, and 20 customers will walk by wanting to find things, and inevitably they find me because I'm always the one that knows where things are. And it's a small town store, so after a while you get a reputation, and sometimes they just seek you out automatically. And I don't mind that, I really don't, but it does get frustrating when I have more than one customer and there's more than one employee who's quite capable of helping them. And in fact, in most places I've worked, it's a pretty clear company policy that you're supposed to ask customers if they can help you find anything. Now, I realize customers can be assholes. I know that more than anybody. But that doesn't mean you should go out of your way to give them reasons to complain, right? And today was one such day where I had 2 customers at once. And customers are a lot like small children. Customers think that they're the only people in the world shopping. I swear everybody is born with the mentality that they are the only, like, okay, it makes sense when I'm playing Skyrim, right? It makes sense to believe that I'm the only customer shopping at a tavern because I am. I am literally the economy of Skyrim. Same with, Stardew Valley. I am the whole economy of Stardew Valley. And I know that name of the town isn't Stardew Valley, but whatever. But, all right, so I'm used to having more than one customer who needs my help. But this literally happened. This was literally one of those like a child moments where first a customer needed help reaching a piñata. And I was about to help them, but right as soon as I started to help that person, a customer over in the bikes needed help. And they said, I need help too. And I know that customer maybe didn't hear the first customer, but it happened so close together that, and again, it I don't know how else to describe it, but it can be frustrating because that same moment, there were 4 other employees working in the same part of the store. Any one of them could have volunteered to help the other customer while I helped another. But I see one of my coworkers blitzing on by, not paying attention, and I called his name. And he was it wasn't like he was on his lunch. He was pushing store equipment, and he had the vest on. He was very clearly on the clock, very clearly doing a job. So I called his name very, not harshly, but I did kind of raise my voice a bit to get his attention. And I said, listen, I've got 2 customers who need help. Can you take one of them and I'll take the other? And he agreed because it wouldn't have looked well for him if he hadn't. But, so we got both customers situated. Now that leads me to the story about the customer with the bike. Now, this was an elderly, no, it's not elderly. They were an older couple. Let's just say maybe in their 60s. Let's leave it at that. I don't like using words like elderly because in the wrong context, it can seem diminutive. And they were both, it's not like they were not with it, the woman was trying to pick out a bike for herself. And this is a woman in her 60s. Now, I get a little test ride. Now, I get sometimes you want to do a little test ride, right? But an appropriate test ride on a bicycle is around the bicycle area, which is where one expects to see somebody doing a test ride of a bike. We don't encourage that, but that makes sense to me. So I get this bike down for her. Now, the first thing she did is, as I'm pulling this bike down, she runs forward and tries to help me take it off, which actually causes me to lose balance, and I could have gotten hurt. And I said, ma'am, please don't do that. And then she said, oh, it's okay. No, it's not okay, as evidenced by the fact that I told you not to do it. And I explained that to her, and like, no, you almost hurt me. She didn't, like, here's a woman in her 60s that I have to believe, I don't know if it's a sign of early onset dementia, or if it's just the usual customer, I don't give a shit about you mentality, but she just did not see the problem with what she did. And I couldn't raise my voice, I couldn't get angry about it, I just put the bike on the floor, and she gets on it and starts riding it, but she doesn't ride it around the bike area. She rides it all the way down into the home lines section where there's not only breakable stuff, but at any moment there could be customers in the way. And customers are not expecting to see a grown woman ride a bicycle through the store. So they're not, it's hard enough to get somebody to slow down when they come to a corner. But at any moment, this woman could have banged into somebody. She could have fallen off the bike. She could have run into somebody. Somebody could have gotten hurt. And this is a grown woman. This is not a kid. This is not a teenager. This is not a college student who hasn't quite worked out all the consequences of their actions. This is somebody who is well old enough to know better, doing this really dangerous thing. And I realize most people are going to say, oh, I'm overreacting, but you're in a busy store. You're in a busy store. It's not like you're in a wide open field. Oh my God. Sometimes every time I think I'm going to be surprised by a customer's behavior, they prove to me I am so wrong. Anyway, well, I don't know. She didn't want the bike. Something about the bike wasn't right. But I'm like, and I think in his defense, I think the man that was with her, let's just assume for the sake of argument that was her husband. I don't know. Could have been brother and sister. I don't know. I mean, they could have been brother and sister in the sense that Jaime and Cersei were brother and sister, but, let's not get into that. I'm just saying that I think in his defense, and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, he probably believed she wasn't behaving normally either, but he wasn't going to call her out in the store, and I was doing my level best not to lecture her like she was a small child, because that's what she was behaving like. I mean, it's really a tough barrel to be over. So, yeah, I never know anymore. Some days it takes all of my energy just to get through the day with everybody's idiosyncrasies, with everybody's lack of consideration, with their lack of self-awareness. I mean, there are some behaviors, grown-ups do some things in that store. I'm emphasizing grown-ups because it's not just kids that do this stuff, okay? Kids can learn from their mistakes. Kids have time to grow and to realize what they're doing is not appropriate. But if you're a grown-ass man or woman doing this, or transgender, or whatever the hell, that's not what this is about. If you're a grown-up, if you are a grown-up person, you should have had plenty of time to sort out how to behave in a public place, in a store, or in a movie theater, or just outside your house. And that applies to some of my coworkers too. They should all know how this works. I should not be the only person trying to help all these people. I should not be the only person juggling customers and then getting reprimanded for it when I can't help the one or two. I don't know. But it is quite infuriating. And before anybody comes at me with, oh, you should just quit your job since you complain so much, everybody complains about their job, so shut the hell up. Everyone complains about their job, all right? It's okay to vent about your job, all right? And no, I shouldn't have to leave my job just because I vent about it. Do you know how many, I know nurses, I know people in the health field, you know how much they complain about their jobs every day? And they went to school for their job. They spent money on a degree to get their job, and they still bitch sometimes way more than I do. And I'm not trying to downplay their experiences. I'm just saying that everybody's allowed to complain. And I'm sick of people acting like they have the file on who has the right to say what and when. So, thank you for listening to my workplace rant. If you know what, tell me in the comments. Blow up my comments section with how awful of a person I am, or throw your support in. I don't care. Like I said, feeds the algorithm. Thank you for watching the video this far. If you enjoyed this content, or if you enjoyed any of the other content on my channel, please leave a like, consider following me, subscribing, hit that bell so you get a notification whenever I make a video. I would like to try to start doing some lives on YouTube, but I need more people to follow, to know that they're gonna see the follow thing, because YouTube does not go out of its way to show people the live. But anyway, I'm gonna borrow a phrase from Charlie, Penguin Zero. That's all I want to talk about. See ya.